Assalamu alaikum. My name is Salim Siddiqui, and thanks for watching this continuing series on the hotconflict.com website, where we're continuing to talk. Yes, believe it or not, let's remind all of us, we're talking about the great Eid, the great day of great celebration for the Muslims, the Eid al-Akbar, or the Great Eid, or the Eid al-Adha, the Eid of sacrifice. And so we're talking about the process that Muslims all over the world, such as myself and my family, we gathered in our local communities here and prayed and gathered together with all our families and friends and believers in the Lord Most High, and bowed and prayed with our heads to the ground, celebrating the praises of the Lord, all of us towards the direction of Mecca, the holy house in the Arabian Peninsula, where Abraham and Ishmael built this house to worship the one true Lord. And we're talking about the importance of that celebration and why it is significant. And we're telling you a story in a way that you've never heard before. And so instead of going in through all the disclaimers that I usually go through, let's just get straight to the material. I'm warning it's going to be strange, but let's just get straight to it. We have to start first with the fundamental. The fundamental that is always the fundamental is that La ilaha illallah. There's only one God. It's the fundamental that we've been keeping constant throughout the whole story. As strange as the story has gotten, there's been certain constants to understand the world around you. Now you're hearing the story of truth perhaps for the first time, so always focus on the fundamentals. And that will lead you to never be misguided from the truth of the light. Now we said there is only one God. God created the angels and God created the jinns. We've gone through some earlier explanations and it's about to become more relevant. As you know, if the story is going to continue as I've promised, it must get even more strange. But we've said that the Lord Most High created Adam, who is the most superior of all the races, and breathed to him the life of the soul. And Adam taught his children the same thing, the story of the truth, that he knew he was at war with another form of race that had been created by God earlier. Go back and listen to the story if you don't know what I'm talking about. But this is a war between light versus darkness, and that all of the sons of Adam live and then die, and we will be raised by the Lord, and our souls will be judged for eternity of everlasting life, as a reward or a punishment depending on our deeds or actions, and that all of this is the plan and will of God, and nothing is coincidental, and everything happens for a reason. And so if it is true that I am revealing to you by the will of God the first time in your language, the English language, in a method that you can hear and understand the story of the truth, that all of the parts of the story must fit, because this is the story of the truth from your Lord Most High, and God is the greatest planner of all things. And as we know, there are certain fundamentals that we keep in our war between light versus darkness. There are always those who tell the truth about the Lord Most High, the light, and we said that the term Allah, or the God, is just an Arabic term for meaning the one and only God, the God of Adam and Eve and all of the prophets who bore the light that we said in the chain, and that your Lord is the greatest and most glorious of gods, high above anything that we can think of. He is above all of his creation in this universe, and every creature and living thing is created by God, and that because of that, none has the right to be worshipped except the Lord Most High. And we've gone through the story and telling the tale, and we've gotten to the point where we're talking about Islam and Muslims. And I said we don't want to get lost in the titles of groups in any political way, and so we have to understand the terminology. When someone says Muslim, it means somebody who understands the story of the truth and what the message of the Lord Most High is, and they're willing to submit themselves to that. And the person who understands this way of life here on this earth, that way is called Islam, and it's the same description for all of the bearers of the true light in the story. And we said that we must always focus on understanding the depth of the message, and that if I'm telling the story in the tale and you're willing to hear the signs, you're going to hear what only the most knowledgeable of scholars and greatest of monks and ascetics knew. And some of them taught some of their people in parts, and some of them might have had a glimmer of the light here and a glimmer of the light there. But you are getting something amazing here. So if you're listening, I'm telling you that it's about to get more strange and more beautiful. Now, we said we were going to explain, not that you should become a Muslim. Muslim is somebody who submits on their own. As we said, it's somebody who submits to the truth of the Lord. But we said that as all sons of Adam, this isn't a political fight between Muslims and any other group. Beyond that is this conversation. We're talking about the real reality of the whole planet. What we're calling Adam and his offspring, the human race. Because we said, in reality, we're realizing that there's something going on this planet and that we are not alone. But before we get too deep in the story and strange, let's continue to focus with where we are so that we can continue to see the story and make sure that all of it makes sense in its totality. And that is very important, as you'll hear when the story continues. So we said we know that there are these people now who call themselves Muslims, and they say that there is this new prophet. Now, we talked about some of the problems on the earth, and let's just recap real quickly what was happening. The children of Israel, who were still following the truth of the one Lord, had missed a noble sign in the arrival of Jesus, son of Mary. And Jesus, son of Mary, had taught his companions and true believers the truth of the light, but even then it started to get corrupt and darkness filled the lands. Some of them still believed in the light and understood the true meaning of God, but amongst many of the Christian peoples, they were lost, not even understanding La ilaha illallah, the first fundamental, that there's only one God, and Trinity and symbols and crosses and other signs and symbols that have always been in existence in time and are verifiable began to creep into the religion that Christ brought. As we said, the fundamentals are all the same. There is only one God. But we said if you're listening to the story, then we get to a dramatic point where in the chain of the story we must get to a point where we have a final prophet. And the most clear indication of that is the fact that Jesus, son of Mary, ascended and told the true believers, as we said, that each of the tribes and people always had a knowledge of how the signs are to be understood and what to look for to see when a person comes to know that the message is true. And now I'm telling you something that only the great knowledgeable people have ever known. That if you're listening to this story and paying attention to everything that happened and all of the details, you should be able to read the signs for yourself. If you take the time to ponder all the things that I'm saying, as I said, all of the questions and all of the answers should come to you because I'm talking about the story of the truth of the real light. So let's go back to the specifics. We just got to the part where the Prophet Muhammad had ascended and returned and had been given the great blessings of the prayer. And let's go through and analyze some of the story and see how it makes sense. We are claiming that at this point, a final messenger must come. He must be someone that dispels all the misunderstandings of the past believers, so that the doubts in the Jews and the doubts in the Christians are made clear, and that the fundamentals should be established. So let's explain the parts of Islam that people already know. Well, we must start with the fundamental basic, and that is La ilaha illallah. There is only one God. But because we said something has dramatically changed on the earth, and that the Lord Most High is sending the final prophet of the sons of Adam in the chain, the first fundamental must be adjusted for the first time in human history. It must be known from this point on that we are sending the last prophet. And if you are to receive the truth of the word, all of the sons of Adam must know for sure what is the statement of those who bear the light, so that it is known and clear to all of them. We said the last people who got the messengership disagreed amongst each other over what? Who was the true last messenger? And so, a first fundamental has to be sent for the final messenger. The statement of faith must be made clear and known forever for all time and must never be lost. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. There is only one God, and Muhammad is his messenger.